All right, this is LikeFolio. Here we go. I'm Andy Swan. I'm one of the founders of LikeFolio, joined by Landon Swan, Megan Brantley, Harrison Sweeney. And what we're talking about today is something that literally 4 or 5 times in the past week I've been asked, Andy, what's the biggest trend that LikeFolio sees? Long-term trend. And the answer I'm giving is electric vehicle adoption. There's a lot of good reasons for that. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about the stock. We'll talk about competitive stocks. And then at the end, maybe we'll get into which of those stocks we would buy and why individually. But, kick it off. EV demand through the roof. Gas is $5 a gallon. Is a trigger point.
Do you think that's why? Is that the whole kickoff, or was the demand there a year ago?
No, I mean, it was there a year ago. It was on the rise.
Is this just like pushing people over the edge? But my thing is, if they're hurt by gas prices, are they going out and buying an electric vehicle to offset that? Or is it just in their mind like, maybe this is something I should work towards?
I think it's just, what's my next car going to be?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not just going to go out and say, oh, gas price is too high, I'm buying an electric car tomorrow. Right. But it's like, okay, I can't handle this anymore. My next car, I'm going to plug in.
Yeah.
If it was the same price though, like let's say the gas was, you remember back in college, I remember 75 cents.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys don't remember 75 cents, but I do. Imagine gas was near free like that.
Near free.
I mean, I think I'd still want a Tesla because it's an amazing vehicle.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The cars have gotten really good.
Right.
It's not just like the little piddly golf cart thing that people used to drive.
Smart car.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not that anymore.
And look at this. This was EV demand over a year ago.
Yeah.
You'd look at that and you'd be like, oh, that's really strong, right? Mm-hmm. But then if you look at it now, that's about where we were.
Oh
yeah.
my.
Yeah.
And now look at it.
And that's
So you want to talk about
What's that?
acceleration of adoption. My goodness.
What's that point right before the big spike, Megan? Right? Where's the date on that?
Right, like up in here. Oh, like
At
right
the bottom,
in here?
yeah. Like March, February? Okay.
That's gas prices.
that's gas prices, right?
But
So-
also think this is 90-day moving average too. So you got to think a couple months before then.
Yeah.
Right. That's big.
Just everything was changing. The world changed. And now electric vehicles are good. I drive one. It's amazing. Great car. Fast. I plug it in every night. I never think about stopping at a gas station. It's just ready to go every morning. It's a different way of life. Now,
But can you road trip?
Yes, that's the
No.
So you can't go to like 2 miles, like
No.
2 hours away, right? Like,
Yeah.
What's your limit on a road trip?
Basically, 3.5 hours. So maybe like 240 miles.
Round trip.
And
or are you looking, like if you go 2.5 hours, you have to think ahead, where can I charge?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
how
it
long?
does that for you. You plug it in, and it tells you where to stop. But no, most hotels have it so you can charge. So you're not going to take this down a 9-hour drive to Destin like we do.
Right.
When we do that, we take my wife's GMC Yukon. Right. So we're not like the Green family, but we've got So we offset
But you
ourselves.
could, right, in theory.
You
if
could.
you wanted,
You
it
could.
would plot out the supercharging.
Yes.
Okay. So what would you do? Like find one of those, plug it in,
Go get something to eat.
like an hour?
25, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
So you
quicker
can
than
do
I
it.
thought. Yeah.
It's- But it's not a gas station. It's not
Yeah.
90 seconds and you're back on the road. So it's not road trip worthy yet, I don't think, but we'll get there. But from around town, it's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds great. Plus you can sleep if you want, right?
And that's why electric vehicle demand has popped so much. The cars are competent, gas prices are crazy. And, and there's also the environmental element. Some people are, trying to do what's best for the world and that
They
sort of thing.
prefer coal to
Yeah.
to oil.
Exactly.
They prefer cold oil.
There is a push from legislators. You see that,
Right.
especially in Europe. There's a lot of green sentiment that it sells, I guess.
ESG, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, EVs popping. Mm-hmm. That's historically that's meant Tesla. That was really the only EV worth mentioning for a long time. That's changing a little bit, but Megan, I'm curious what you see when you look at Tesla, today. It's part of a growing pie.
It is.
And it was once kind of a monopoly. How do you think people are reacting to the new Teslas? Is demand still growing, that sort of thing?
I think whenever we look at Tesla, not even just among like EV peers, like, you've got some of these new names. You've got like Rivian, you've got Lucid, you've got Fisker. I think those are a couple that we've added recently. But even whenever you compare them with the larger players, like when you think about Ford and GM and some of these traditional, very well-established brands, Tesla still commands the overwhelming majority of mentioned market share.
Yeah.
So I think over 80%.
Yeah,
something
it's
like
75,
that.
80. It's massive.
So it's not necessarily like, okay, that's the portion of sales Tesla's taking at the moment, but that's what consumers are most excited to talk about.
Yes.
So if you want to talk about a forward-looking indicator, like this is a company that people are really excited about, and that people, whenever they talk about seeing a Tesla on the highway, they don't necessarily talk about seeing a Ford.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the real estate ownership in people's minds.
Yes.
It's Tesla owns 80%.
Exactly.
That's incredible. Yeah, it is by far and away the most interesting car there is. I mean, just like you're talking about, so many years ago, electric vehicle was a joke. I mean, it was a joke. They went 30 miles an hour. They had, low double-digit range on miles at best.
Yeah. And
now it's like the fastest car on the road. My kids who are into supercars, they consider Tesla a supercar. Like when
Ferrari.
they see a Lambo or Ferrari, there's a Tesla too. It's in that group.
Do they really get excited for a Model 3 now at this point?
They look for the logo, and they're excited about the logo.
They can tell a difference?
Oh, they know headlights.
Oh.
Yeah, like if you look in the rearview mirror, and I'm like, Watson, what's that car behind us? And he'll turn around and be like, oh, that's a whatever. And he'll rattle it off, and then I'll slow down and wait and get past by it. Sure enough, he was right. It's like, how'd you know that? Because the headlights do this and that.
Wow.
But anyway, he considers Tesla a supercar. So
yeah, well, it's got mind share, and Elon Musk makes sure that they continue to get mind share. And it's really kind of cool the way that they went after it. I mean, it's a little bit of a broken record to talk about. People have talked about it before, but really kind of going the reverse angle of everybody else. Every other EV manufacturer was like, let's get something that people can afford in mass production as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas Tesla started with the fastest supercar that proved the technology could do 180 miles an hour and 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, and then bring it down.
And what was the first Model S? Like 120 or more? What was the cost on that?
Yeah, it was like
the Roadster.
That was
$100,000.
$100K plus, definitely.
The very first one I think was almost $250,000. That Roadster,
was
very high, and so it was a super exclusive group. But when
like
you
the air
saw one, you
jets.
turned your head.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's one of those electric Teslas.
I can remember the first time I did a test drive in one. Do you remember doing that? Did you do that at mom and dad's house too?
No.
Okay. So they had a guy come over, a dealer, and he came to the house, and then we went out and drove it. And it was unbelievable. I remember after the first time through telling myself, you better make sure your head is touching the neck rest, or else you're going to hurt your neck.
Yeah.
It throws you back that fast. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so I remember that from years ago. And I'm like, that's the best marketing. I don't know how many people I told about that.
No.
But, that's way better than putting ads on TV. It's unbelievable.
I didn't realize that they would come to your house like that, but I guess it makes sense because is there a Tesla dealership even in the state?
No.
Which is crazy, though.
That was a big thing they had to fight against.
They still do.
I see them all over.
Yeah.
I see Teslas now everywhere. Like I used to, we talk about, you used to say like, oh, I saw this Tesla. Now it's so normal.
Yeah.
It's almost like Tesla has kind of morphed into, whereas it used to feel like a space car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now
Status.
it's like a more normal looking car.
Well, especially
but
at the Model 3.
Yeah, but now
As
they
I
don't
was
even
saying,
have.
it's
There's not even a
boring.
dealership here. There's probably we could probably go out there and see 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Just driving.
Just in a simple
on the way
drive.
to lunch.
But do you need a dealership if your entire sales model is just online on your
Exactly.
website? Like they just
Exactly.
go direct to the consumer.
No, they've figured it out. They've changed the model. COVID helped them because that's what people now do is order cars online. But competent competition is on the way for Tesla. I think that we're finally seeing that kind of for the first time. Back in 2018, when we first got bullish on Tesla, I think the stock was like $58, split adjusted basis. That's when we first got bullish. Part of the reason was because they owned the entire space. There was nothing even close competitively. No. Now you're starting to see something. I saw Rivian the other day. It looked okay. I wasn't like blown away by Rivian. I think it's probably a super competent company that's up and coming. But really, it's Ford that's making the kind of the biggest inroads with electric vehicle adoption. They don't look like space. They don't look like space cars at all. They just look like
classic.
The same classic style.
Right.
But now it's just got this different motor in it.
Yeah, that the Ford, is it Lightning? Is that what it's called?
F-150,
when I saw that ad or the video on it, that was impressive. I mean, it's got, you can charge your house with
that's
it
crazy.
in a blackout. That was like the coolest thing. I'm sure that the Cybertruck will have that, surely. Yeah, but still, like it was an impressive feature set.
I think too, for me personally, so just fun like life anecdote, but my dad growing up, he was like a Ford man, right? Growing up, I did not know that a man could drive any different vehicle than a white F-150. That was legitimately the only option that I knew in my head. Amen. And Dad just got a hybrid. He's got a Ford hybrid. My father, who works on the farm, who works hauling ash from power plants, just got a hybrid vehicle. So you want to talk about tipping point and like acceptance in middle America, like that to me, I was like, oh my goodness. Last time I was home, I drove it.
Well, he's not doing it to save the planet.
No.
He's doing it because it's better for him.
Correct.
Yes. So once you cross that point, that all those narratives don't matter.
Correct. Yes. And so I think that's what a lot of people who are skeptical about EVs are missing, is that this is a business decision too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's kind of just like the better car now.
Yeah.
What are we seeing LikeFolio data in terms of that competitive landscape for Tesla? We've got Rivian, we've got the Ford cars. How do you see it like shaking out in terms of that consumer mind share?
So I pulled it up just so you could see, and I'm using Ford because they're probably the most, they're actually available for purchase. You can actually see them on the road, just so you have a frame of reference for the Tesla vehicles and the Ford ones. This is the Lightning, the F-150 Lightning right here in gray, the Mustang Mach-E, and then you can see all of the different Tesla models. And Tesla is definitely still commanding the lion's share, but this is a pretty decent sample size from Ford. Mm-hmm. If we go back, let me see. If we look at this pie chart, so you can see what is Tesla commanding.
Yeah.
Like pretty good amount. And then, but if you look back, let's look at a year ago.
The F-150 Lightning being kind of like 17% of consumer mind share is very impressive to me.
That is.
And you can see it's losing a little. I mean, like it's grown over the last year for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of mind share for Ford.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Ford's like a real player in this, and they have obviously the manufacturing capacity and know-how to build at scale, which I think is the key thing that probably Rivian still has to go through and learn.
And Ford is partnered with Rivian, so that
they were a stakeholder for a long time.
I think they still are.
I think they sold.
Yeah, they sold some of their position.
But if you want to see just the brand hype around Rivian,
it's
check that. It makes
significant.
I couldn't even put it on the same chart because the hype surrounding the brand is so extreme.
Wow.
Yeah, they're cool.
They're kind of they're in production, but they're very light, right? They're almost pre-production or just moved out of pre-production.
They've started deliveries.
Yes.
So do you remember when Tesla was in that? Like that was the whole thing. Can they actually make these at scale?
Right.
And I think that one thing I looked up was the total happiness for these car companies. And pretty much all of the, like Rivian, Fisker, all those are at 82% happiness. And all of the established car companies are at 70% happinness. And Tesla has gone from that 82 area to the 70. So it's like once you start delivering,
the realism,
it's like,
the rubber in the road.
It's not just fantasy land. It's
plugging my house into this is cool, but I wish it wouldn't have broken,
right?
Because now it's in my driveway and it's real, and now you have the problems that cars have.
Yeah, it's just like normal car ownership. Like there are things that
although it is better. I will say I've owned the Tesla for 2 years. It is way better. I've not had to change any oil. I haven't had to do one single maintenance thing other than
Really?
things have gone wrong. But in terms of like routine maintenance,
How long have you had it?
2 years. There's zero. Like there's no oil to change. There's no anything like
So
that.
what's the lifespan, the expected lifespan for like the battery?
I think 8 to 10 years is what they say,
Okay.
or some maybe even they're trying to get a 1,000,000-mile battery. I don't think that it's anywhere close to that yet, but
Is the motor expected to have anywhere near the problems that
No.
a combustion engine has?
I don't think so. But
So
we'll see.
if another company produced a vehicle comparable in performance to Tesla, would you are you as a Tesla driver now loyal to Tesla?
No.
Are you loyal to the concept of like EVs? Would you go back to a non-EV?
It would be tough to go back to a non-EV and
Okay.
think about going back to the gas pump. Like that's the worst thing. It's just like I'm almost out of
But
gas.
you love stopping at gas stations
I love-
and getting snacks.
Snacks.
I love voluntarily
Do you
stopping.
ever stop at a gas
Yes.
station?
Oh yeah, I still do that.
Park in the parking
just so that I can walk through the aisles and grab some atomic fireballs or something. Yeah, I'm into that, but I don't want to have to stop ever.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I wouldn't consider it brand loyal, but the car gets better every week, every month. It updates itself. Like there's just cool things that is kind of the way cars can be. It's kind of the future of cars, I think. But speaking of the future, let's get to the part where now we each just go through, and if we had to buy, would you buy any EV stock, any stock of any of these companies? And if so, which one would be your favorite? We'll start with Harrison, Megan, and then Landon and I.
So I know we've talked a lot about Ford, and I really like the way that they're blending the classic cars with the new EV internals. And yeah, I think that's going to be the future. I mean, Tesla is cool, and they definitely have some futuristic looking designs, but I think for the average person, that's almost a turnoff, especially you mentioned like middle America. Like that's just, I mean, the Cybertruck looks like something out of like an old video game. It's not something that's very practical design either. Yeah. And then you look at something like the F-150, which is just a beloved classic design. And then you add in the fact that they're making it an electric vehicle. I think that is going to be the future of this space. So I really like Ford right now, and we'll see if they can continue to execute, obviously. But for the time being, that does seem like the best legacy player bet to me. So I'm very bullish on Ford.
Yeah, I'm going Rivian here. I think it's if I were to purchase or want an electric vehicle based on what I've seen and the lineups that are out there, I love the Rivian SUV that they've put out. I love that they're focusing on larger model vehicles versus smaller vehicles.
Yep.
And also performance. They're kind of going with that more outdoor performance niche, which is a niche. I like that it's kind of focusing in on that. And I do know that recently they confirmed that they were executing when it came to production and things like that. And I think that that's the reason why a couple weeks ago, I know their stock popped because they came out and said, yes, we are executing. And yes, we're actually doing this ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
They also have a partnership with Amazon.
Yeah,
so
that never hurts.
That's also a ding. But this is definitely one that it's unproven.
Yep.
So it's
I mean,
we'll see.
Look at that Tesla chart, though. The upside
I know,
is
like if they can do
massive.
it, do they have the Elon Musk magic
trying to
dial?
copy that stock chart trying to find Tesla. 5
the
years
next,
ago.
The next Tesla.
Yeah, I hear that. I don't know. I mean, I think Tesla's valuation is really, really high. I mean, what is it? The 6th largest or something like that? It's like the 6th most valuable company.
Overall company, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think the one right behind it is Berkshire Hathaway, which has like 10 times the income. And it's just, it's basically the same, but they're not growing. Obviously, it's a growth stock. I think for me, it's a bet on Musk and what he's been able to do. They've everything that the naysayers said they couldn't do, he's done, and he's executed really well. And I would have to go with the leader. If I'm forced to invest in one of these, I think I would go with the leader, and I would be comfortable. I own Tesla shares, so I'm not speaking my book too much. But if you said, all right, here's whatever $100,000, you got to put it into one of these companies, I'd pick Tesla. They've just executed. They've got the history of innovating and executing, and I like the leader. If he leaves the company, I'm out. I'm not like a big fanboy, but it's just he's executed. He's done it.
Yeah.
And so I would back that.
Yeah, I think I like all three. I like Ford a lot for the same reasons you mentioned. Tesla just beat earnings. They just did a great, they're at 17 billion and a quarter in revenue, something nobody ever thought was possible, like to your point. And the other thing about Tesla is they're learning how to produce factories. Like they're becoming a factory production company as much as they are an automotive production company, and the scale that can bring is massive. I think Tesla's somewhere $750 a share right now. I think it could be a $3,000, $4,000 stock within the next 4 or 5 years. I also think Rivian, that partnership with Amazon just tells me that they have it together and they have a really solid plan and team, because Amazon doesn't invest willy-nilly just most of the time. So I think Rivian could be $150 or $200 stock. So I think there's plenty of room for a 5X or 10X in a lot of these companies. Maybe not Ford because it's got so much else going on, but I think you just have to kind of figure out the one. If you're going to invest in the space, there's ways to invest in ETFs that kind of cover them all, or you can spread it out. Or if you find the one that kind of, like Megan was saying, speaks to you, or you've driven the car, you've experienced it, that's a great way to go. And also, you got to keep up with the LikeFolio data. We're every month, every quarter, we're putting out exactly what the consumer demand levels are for all of these companies. So that keeps you ahead of Wall Street. And so if you want to check that out, likefolio.com, make sure you're subscribed to our free daily drop. Hit subscribe on podcast and videos, and we're off to the races. So with that, I'll leave it there. I think EV space is booming. It's the biggest trend LikeFolio sees right now, and some great companies in there. So thanks for joining us.